Velveeta, Knuckle, Underwear, you are clear for takeoff. When you hit that nuclear weapons plant, drop a bomb for me. Good evening, everyone. This is Stone Gasman live from New York City. And tonight we're going to be doing commentaries for both Hot Shots, the 1991 film directed by Jim Abrams, as well as Hot Shots Part Deux from 1993, which transplanted over three of the film's leads, Charlie Sheen, Valeria Gallino, and Lloyd Bridges. I've always been a fan of these movies. I had these movies on VHS, and I never got them on DVD for reasons I'll explain later. But at any rate, we're going to be watching the 1991 film first, Hot Shots. I provided a link right here where you can watch it for free on YouTube. Part Deux, unfortunately, you're going to have to pay $3 for rental on Amazon Prime. That's the way I went. But we can watch the original for free on YouTube, courtesy of Disney. So, but I'm going to make sure my volume is all the way to the bottom, so that be all right here. But like I said, yeah, this film came out in 1991, released by 20th Century Fox, and it's basically a parody of Top Gun. Although there's a lot of other parodies scattered throughout the movie. It doesn't concentrate on just Top Gun, although in many ways Top Gun is the primary target. And there's a lot of little in-jokes, a lot of little bits, comic bits that I can't wait to expand upon and try to explain. Because there's a lot of references here that I don't think a modern audiences will pick up on, particularly if you didn't live during this time. I mean, even some stuff I had to look up just to make sure. Wait a minute, what was that a reference to again? Oh, yeah. So this is going to be fun. So we are paused at the 20th Century Fox logo right here on YouTube. So we'll go ahead and count down from 3, I think. 3, 2, 1, and play. And here we have the old 20th Century Fox logo. I really do miss them as a studio. I mean, I never thought I would have that kind of sentimentality for a movie studio, but I absolutely do. So yes, Hot Shots. And this came out on the heels of Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear, which was the sequel, of course, to 1988's Naked Gun movie. And Jim Abrams, who directed both the Hot Shots movies, he was part of the Zaz director team, which included Jim Abrams, David Zucker, and Jerry Zucker. And they started out with Kentucky Fried Theater in the 1970s, which became a movie directed by John Landis. And then, of course, they became famous for doing Airplane. And this movie, I can't say that this movie rises to the level of Airplane. And Lloyd Bridges was, of course, in Airplane, and he's pretty much the Leslie Nielsen of this movie. I did not see Hot Shots in the theater. I must confess, I saw Part Deux in the theater, and I'm excited to talk about my theatrical experiences for Part Deux. But for the moment, I discovered this on VHS. I must confess, I think a lot of people did. I remember distinctly when I put in the VHS for Hot Shots, they always put the trailer in for Alien 3 right before that. So believe me, I remember when we first got the videotape and it had that trailer for Alien 3, and I was so pumped up for months. I went to my father and I said, look, Dad, look, I was 12 years old, and I said, Dad, I know the movie is R-rated. Could you please get me into the theater so I can see Alien 3? I wouldn't be able to wait on that. So my father actually took me to see Alien 3 in the theater, which was the very first time I saw an R-rated movie in the theater. I thought I was doing something illegal or something. But But yeah, and I would watch Hot Shots over and over and over and over again just because I found it so funny. Now, I wasn't able to get an official confirmation as to whether the Pentagon supported this. I'm going to guess that they didn't, because a lot of the jets, as you can see, have written on the side, the Navy. I'm sure that if these were official jets, that it would say U.S. Navy as opposed to the Navy. But at any rate, so we open up on these two guys flying around. I mean, from the get-go, the movie tells you that this is going to be a parody of Top Gun, which of course was the #1 hit of 1986, and of course the sequel is currently enjoying it's enjoying its glory right now in the theaters. I will not personally be seeing it in the theaters for my own reasons. Uh, if you sat in on my commentary last night for An Officer and a Gentleman, you'd understand that I have a special kind of disdain for Top Gun. And what I've always loved is the fact that whenever I read critics' reviews for Hot Shots, they tended to be higher in praise than Top Gun ever was. The weird thing with Top Gun is that even the aerial sequences, I just they never worked for me. I thought it looked like a video game. I can't help it. I just I think I didn't see the movie until like the late 80s, maybe early 90s. It was around the time of Hot Shots that I saw Top Gun at the same time. And to me, there was just no contest. I far preferred Hot Shots. Far preferred Hot Shots. little little French dream humor right there. And I mean, as a kid, I ate all this up. I really did. I don't know if modern audiences would find this too silly now because look, comedy is all subjective. And the weird thing is I can find people that would probably find Airplane hilarious yet not laugh once through Hot Shots, even though it's part of the same creative team that worked on those other movies, which included Airplane, The Naked Gun, Top Secret, and my personal favorite, which was Ruthless People. And Jim Abrams actually, from what I understand of the three, when they did Ruthless People, Jim Abrams was the one that seemed to be most in direct contact with the actors, I believe. And of course, he would start talking with Bette Midler behind the scenes. The wolf pissing on the. I love that. But Jim Abrams and Bette Midler, they would do this 1988 movie called Big Business, which was a minor hit. But here we have, yes, this is Charlie Sheen in his early 90s glory when he was still riding high on Platoon and some other modest hits. He hasn't been really in a good place for the past 10 years or so, largely because of the Two and a Half Men controversy, which I never watched Two and a Half Men. So when I read about that whole controversy and why he was let go after like 7-8 seasons, it was like, okay, well, I don't know. I have nothing to say about that. And of course, his health issues in recent years and among other things. There's a lot of things about Charlie Sheen that we can talk about throughout the course of these two movies. And I do plan to, because let me put it this way. I don't think that Charlie Sheen should be as hated as much as he seems to be. At least I don't know. I don't know if a large if the media and people in general have just turned him off completely or banned him. I don't know. Me personally, I can still watch movies with Charlie Sheen. I mean, the Hot Shots movies included. I thought that he had, at this time, I mean, I'm glad that he was willing to, go all the way into the Leslie Nielsen world of farce, while at the same time kind of making fun of his own image just a little bit, because he had been in Platoon and he had also been in Navy SEALs, which came out a year before this, which is now considered a joke. I mean, I remember when Clerks came out. I mean, yeah, I mean, just why would you want to rent Navy SEALs? I mean, it's trust me, it's a bunch of BS. It's an absolute bunch of bullshit. But some people still find it fun for whatever it's worth. I mean, and the thing is that Dances with Wolves, that was the movie that made me fall in love with cinema as an art form. I mean, I know Goodfellas fans don't like to hear that, but it's the absolute truth. And I love this spoof of Dances with Wolves. I really did. I revel in it, and it's amazing that Jim Abrams, after he made this, he made Hot Shots Part Deux, which of course we'll see a little bit later, which has, I think they really do double down on the movie parodies in that one. But after that, they also made the very little scene, Jane Austen's Mafia, which came out in 1998, which is a Godfather parody. And there are some brilliant sequences in that movie, even though it was largely ignored by audiences. The the spoof cycle had kind of run out of steam at that point. I mean, but in the early 90s, it was still going strong because of the Naked Gun sequels as well as the Hot Shots movies. And if you were going to twist my arm, I think I prefer the Hot Shots movies to the to the Naked Gun sequels. And that's just personal preference, you know. I mean, it all depends on how much I laugh at the movie and how much I don't laugh at the movie. But this is Valeria Gallino, who, of course, was in Rain Man with Tom Cruise. So here again, there's some casting coups with this Hot Shots with these Hot Shots movies because you know they got Richard Krenna, who played Colonel Troutman in the Rambo films, to be in a full blown Rambo spoof. Uh, and they got Valeria Gallino, who actually worked with the Maverick in Rain Man. And by the way, I actually do own Rain Man on Blu-ray. I actually do think that's a very underrated Best Picture winner, and I still like watching it very much. And I far prefer it over Top Gun any day of the week. Topper Harley having to deal with speed bumps on a Navy base. Yeah. So okay, so here's the great Lloyd Bridges, the father of Bo and Jeff Bridges, and he was in Airplane, and he was also later in Jane Austen's Mafia as the Godfather in that movie. But he had already made many other films going back to the I should have brought this up. Never mind. I'm going to cut that right there. But and also this actor right here is Kevin Dunn, and I remember watching Kevin Dunn in a lot of movies like Dave. And these uniforms are pretty accurate. I mean, here again, even without the military's approval, it's pretty easy to get actual uniforms, which would I wore those dungarees. That's exactly what I wore, and I would do that kind of marching on Navy bases like that. However, one thing I did not do was sing the Brady Bunch theme along with the instructor. No, nor did we sing the song from Stripes, to be perfectly honest. Now, I know when I was a kid, it's really weird. I always thought this guy right here was Andrew Dice Clay. No, that is not Andrew Dice Clay. Just and why is a rabbi in there? Who knows? And here, of course, John Cryer. Um, I knew him best from Pretty in Pink and Superman for The Quest for Peace, where he played Lex Luthor's nephew. Played Lex Luthor's nephew, and of course, Sheen and Cryer would later do what about 6, 7 seasons of Two and a Half Men. I don't know why I never watched that show, but I mean, I don't watch a lot of television, to be perfectly honest. Uh, yeah, we want him in our skies. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And these little jokes and these dialogue exchanges. I mean, as a kid, I didn't quite pick up on every single one of them, but it's like right here when Charlie Sheen, says when he says that he owns a motorcycle, and William O'Hurley here is like, oh, a loner, and Charlie Sheen's like, nope, I own it. Oh, okay. Ugh. I mean, you had to think about that for a second. I was like, oh yeah, loner, loner, and loner. Yeah. Mhm. And here we have Carrie Elways, fresh from The Princess Bride, appearing on Esquire magazine as Navy's Best Dressed. Oh, I don't know. At the time, I actually kind of thought this was a step down for Carrie Elways. I don't know why. I mean, look, Hot Shots was a hit. I mean, it made $180 million. And I love the clever advertising campaign on the poster, which was, unprecedented, uncut, under $10. Yes, I remember buying tickets that were under $10, and I miss those days. I wish I had seen the original Hot Shots, but I managed to see part Deux, so I still have a special love for this tiny little franchise. And there's Christy Swanson, the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer, showing off her yeah. Uh, so shifting from Christy Swanson to John Cryer. Bravo, Jim Abrams. That's a pretty good shot right there. So, but Charlie Sheen, of course, was most well known at this point for Platoon, a very worthy Best Picture winner. It's not my favorite film about Vietnam. I mean, on July 4th this year, I plan to do an audio commentary for Born on the 4th of July, which is the Oliver Stone movie. And I'm very much looking forward to that, as Ron Kovic is turning 76 years old this year. I prefer that movie to Platoon. I have seen Platoon about 4 times. It's a damn good movie. It is so good. It's one of the best war films ever made. And yet I don't particularly care for Charlie Sheen in it. I like Charlie Sheen in other movies. There is something about Charlie Sheen in Platoon that just doesn't jive with me. And look, I tend to look at it as Charlie Sheen playing Oliver Stone because it's based on Oliver Stone's Vietnam experiences and everything. He's just the one thing in Platoon that has never washed well with me. I don't know if it's because I know because of his association with Hot Shots and other comedy films now. I mean, he did Scary Movie 5, where in the opening sequence, he and Lindsay Lohan jump into bed together. But the joke is they forgot to remove their ankle bracelets. So all the authorities come in and everything. I mean, Charlie Sheen is still, doing that kind of thing just for that paycheck and everything. But here again, he hasn't been doing well in recent years. Look, there are movies in my collection which will always have Charlie Sheen, and I can't. I'm fine with watching him in movies like Hot Shots, but also probably the film that he's known most controversially for now, and I don't think it's fair, but the movie Lucas. I am such a fan of the movie Lucas that I even had Cary Green autograph the back of the DVD. That's how much I love Lucas, and I think it's an underrated masterpiece of teen cinema from the 1980s, which never got its credit. Even on video, it never became a cult hit. And what had to give it the most worst kind of spotlight you could ever ask for is the fact is that Corey Feldman came out and accused Charlie Sheen of molesting Corey Haim on Lucas. I'm going to get this out of the way very, very quickly and never come back to it because, with Hot Shots, you want to sit back and have fun and laugh at all the jokes and things. But I feel like this is something I need to get out of the way. I do not believe anything that Corey Feldman says for a second. In fact, Corey Haim's mother has already dropped the name of the movie executive who, in fact, did the horrible deed to Corey Haim on the movie. Now, granted, does that open up the door to any other questions? Like, did the director know about it? Did anybody else on the crew know about it? It doesn't matter. What happened to Corey Haim on that film was horrible. Nobody should ever have to go through that, especially in Hollywood. And of course, because it's such a toxic environment. And look, Corey Feldman went through the same thing. I'm sure he did. But I do not believe, I don't know why he decided to go after Charlie Sheen, other than the fact that he has his own reasons for hating Charlie Sheen. I do not believe for a moment that Charlie Sheen did what Corey Feldman accused him of doing. I want to get that out of the way right now. I believe what Corey Haim's mother has said. I do not believe a word of what Corey Feldman has said. End of story. And by the way, if you've never seen Lucas, give it a chance. Despite the controversy that's been plastered on that film very unfairly, I highly encourage you to check it out because Charlie Sheen is absolutely amazing in it, as is Corey Haim. I mean, the performances by all of them, Charlie Sheen, Corey Haim, and Kerry Green, and Winona Ryder in her film debut, they're all wonderful. But I'm going to leave it at that, and we're not going to go back to it again. So it's funny, with Valeria Gallino, I haven't seen her for years since she made the Hot Shots movies. As a matter of fact, the only thing that I've seen her in fairly recently was the Apple TV show, The Morning Show, starring Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston. And she played this woman in Italy who decided to take care of Steve Carell after he had been involved in sexual misconduct at the news station that he worked for. It's like a morning 8 a.m. morning news show like NBC This Morning or whatever. I don't watch those news shows. But anyway, you get my idea. You get the drift. It's a really good show. It's a very well-written show. And it was great to see Valeria Gallino again. And her beauty, I don't think has diminished one bit since she made Rain Man and Hot Shots, but that's just me. Highly recommend that show. It's a very good show. But it was just great to see her on screen after so long. So yeah, she got to act opposite Steve Carell on the morning show, which is pretty cool. Now, yes, the two bars on Charlie Sheen's collars right there are absolutely the designation for a Navy lieutenant. Like I said, the uniforms, they got the uniforms pretty accurate here, which, even though it probably doesn't have the Navy support, I still appreciate. Now, I've always loved this joke right here when Lloyd Bridges comes in and they all stand at attention, and then it's an at ease joke. Yes. Especially love the fan they put on Carrie Elway's back there, put on the glasses, the Top Gun glasses. I mean, it's totally, yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, in the casting of this movie, I mean, comedy is all about reaction, and you have to get actors that will just provide hilarious reactions because it validates the comedic truth of whatever works and whatever doesn't work. I mean, the thing is, the difference I think between the Hot Shots movies and like something like, say, Family Guy is that Family Guy is just references, whereas they take something here in the Hot Shots movies, they take something from, say, Top Gun or Gone with the Wind, and they work with it a little bit. They don't just reenact the scene and reuse the same words that the characters say without expanding upon it in any way. At least in the Family Guy episodes that I've seen, it's like they just redo the scene and they don't go any further than that. And it goes along with my whole thing that I don't consider references jokes. But in the Hot Shots movies and in other parody movies like this, where they made it an art form, is that here again, they expand upon it. They go a few more, they go in different directions with it and they work with it a little bit, whether it's through improvisation, whether it's through, okay, I mean, we can get away with making fun of this and then turning it into this. And everything. But these guys knew what they were doing. They were experts from, like I said, the Kentucky Fried Theater and the airplane and the first Airplane movie. Airplane 2, they had nothing to do with. That was by a completely different writer and director. They had nothing to do with Airplane 2, but they did do Top Secret and Ruthless People and, of course, Naked Gun. But after Naked Gun, they kind of went their separate ways because Jerry Zucker went on to direct movies like Ghost and First Night. And David Zucker went on to direct movies like Basketball, which I actually have a fondness for. I thought I saw Elvis. It's crazy. This movie was made only 14 years after Elvis died. Yeah, see how the Jets, they say the Navy on it. Yeah, they did not get Pentagon support for these movies, but hey, it doesn't matter. I mean, to me, it makes them all the more better. Runway 30 something. I mean, I love these old fashioned parody movies. I really do. I mean, they just I never watched any of those Seltzer or Friedberg movies like the Disaster movie or the Meet the Spartans. I mean, because all of my colleagues told me, no, stay away from those as far as you possibly can. You do not want to watch those movies. They are cinematic kryptonite. And I believe that. I do probably believe it based on the little clips that I've seen too. Here again, reference, 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 but no jokes. I mean, here we have actual jokes where they build upon them. Like with washouts, eye issues, or dead meats. You know, what's going to eventually happen to him. I mean, it builds upon these jokes. Yeah, I always like that the floss joke. It's I would tell that to my eye doctors, And this is something they repeated a lot in Part Deux, where Charlie Sheen would say, you got to be joking," and Valeria Gallino would be like, "Well, no, if I was joking, I would have said blah blah blah." Uh, I think I think in the first movie there's only one instance of that, but in like the sequel they do it like 5 times. I mean, see, that's the kind of thing that they build upon it and build upon it and build upon it. And yeah, you want to make the argument that it's all the same joke. It's still the words that are different. And in my opinion, they actually get funnier as they go along. Yeah, when was the last time you saw the Pope go to a boxing match, right? Now, here on the right is a actor by the name of Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. And he was known for television series like 77 Sunset Strip and the FBI and he's also known as recurring character Dandy Jim Buckley in the series Maverick. An entirely different Maverick, but that's a weird connection. And he's also the voice behind the character of Alfred Pennyworth in Batman the Animated Series, and associate spin-offs part of the DC animated universe. He also voiced Dr. Octopus in the 1990s Spider-Man animated series and the 2000 PC Dreamcast and PlayStation Spider-Man action-adventure video game, and Justin Hammer from the second season of the 1994 Iron Man animated series. So, and he passed away about 6 years ago. But I always think of him from Hot Shots, to be perfectly honest, as the villain of the piece. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, just, they just write in that, like, okay, we just need somebody to compromise this mission. It doesn't matter who it is. I mean, it really doesn't matter, because it's all about the jokes in this movie. And oh my God, this bar scene is plenty of not violent humor. I mean, like I said, it's all imaginative and everything, but like, okay, the purse hits the bottle and she says, "My eye." It's like, oh no. Did you mangle a waitress's eye? What the hell? Of course, they play it completely straight. I mean, as actors, that's what they have to do to sell this material. Because, like I said, if they don't play it straight, then the joke is just not going to work, and they have to know when to go all in and when not to go all in. I mean, Jim Abrams knew what he was doing when he was, delivering these laughs for the audience. Now, here we have a spoof of a film that I haven't seen for 40 years. This is a parody of a 1989 film. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up now. I should have known this already. Sorry, I'm so sorry, everybody. I mean, usually these movies pop in my head. They really do usually just pop in my head. The Fabulous Baker Boys, which of course had Lloyd Bridges' son, Beau Bridges. And yeah. Wait a minute. Jeff Bridges was in that too. Yeah. Jeff Bridges and Beau Bridges were both in the Fabulous Baker Boys. I think I just realized that connection right now. Like I said, I haven't seen Fabulous Baker Boys for 40 years. I mean, I remember it doing well on video, but that's about it. I probably should return to it. Well, I'm a hardcore Michelle Pfeiffer fan. I mean, I probably definitely should return to it at one point. Anybody in the chat who's just joining us, we are at the 30-minute mark. Timestamp 30 minutes in the original Hot Shots from 1991. And while the rest of the world enjoys Top Gun Maverick in the theaters, I'm deciding to enjoy Saturday night just watching the Hot Shots movies and talking about them. And I may be in the minority, but like I said, I love these movies, and I have no interest in seeing Maverick. All right, you know what? Let's go into it, because I'm sure that there are people that did not listen to my Officer and Gentleman commentary. Let's go into it. I think that Top Gun, it was written by three hacks who had no military experience whatsoever. And An Officer and Gentleman was written by an actual Navy officer who served in the 1960s. Now, the thing about Top Gun is that it's from the same studio, Paramount Pictures. It's from the same producer, who was Don Simpson. Of course, this time he had Jerry Bruckheimer with him, because they became a powerhouse duo because of Flashdance. And they decided to do An Officer and a Gentleman, but this time with military support. So, the Navy supplied all these aircraft carriers, and then military enlistment went up by 600%. So, the truth of the matter is, the best thing I can say about Top Gun is that I think the movie is, in general, harmless entertainment. And yet at the same time, what bothers me so much about Top Gun is the fact that it feels like a glorified Navy training video. And like I said, I do believe that the two things that actually sold Top Gun were Diet Pepsi because of that massive promotion that they did, and also Tom Cruise's smile. Look, there's no objecting to the magnetism that is Tom Cruise as a movie star. Oh, the two basketball players there, Charles Barkley and the other guy, they were involved in a very famous 1990 bout during a basketball game. Um, so they actually got both of the basketball players back to redo it for the cameras, which they very willingly obliged to, which I always respect them for. Um, Regardless of how you feel about that little matchup. Free beer. And so everybody comes in, everybody drops from the rafters and everything. Oh yeah, this is classic comedy stuff. And I also think that as far as Navy comedies are concerned, I mean, I think this movie really does like outshine something like Down Periscope. That was a movie that did not work for me at all. That was from the same people responsible for Police Academy. I'm doing a commentary on that and the second film later on during the summer. But I mean, also Abbott and Costello did the same thing in the 1940s and everything. I mean, there's been a lot of weird Navy comedies over the years. Probably none more weird than a 1968 film from Universal called Nobody's Perfect with Nancy Kwan, which was this ridiculous movie involving treasure and, from World War II and everything. And it was just, kind of like just a bumbling 60s comedy that Universal put out and that nobody remembers. But Navy comedy, I don't think has ever been that entirely successful, at least on the level that Hot Shots is. Because, like I said, it was made, modest budget of about $20 million, and it made 180 million. So if that doesn't scream at the fact that people still love these parody movies at the time, but I think people were itching for a Top Gun spoof. I really do feel like that's the truth. And here again, looking at the critics' reception of Hot Shots at the time, a lot of critics actually preferred it to Top Gun. So, but I'm not going to judge Maverick until it officially goes streaming. So, just to let everybody know on that front. But here we're about to have a spoof of 9.5 Weeks, which here again is another movie I think was screaming out to be made fun of at the time that it came out in the 1980s. It's this weird, messed up relationship movie that lasts, of course, 9.5 weeks, and a very, very rough and violent sexual relationship between these two people who are, lack of a better term, are rather assholes. And yet, for some reason, the French absolutely love 9.5 weeks. I mean, but yeah, this whole spoof section right here is devoted entirely to 9.5 weeks, starring Mickey Rourke and Kim Basinger, and giving her more and more food and everything. Like I said, it builds and builds and builds on these jokes. Now, from what I understand and from what I've read, this whole thing with the olive being flicked out of her belly button, this was not trick photography. This was actually done for real. Which I guess you could say lucky catch. Yeah, I mean, definitely lucky catch. So yeah, we have all these food jokes where we're now going to actually cook on Valeria Gallino's stomach, which is oddly very steamy. In its own way, it's very steamy. I'm not going to go so far as to make egg jokes here. I mean, I'm not nearly as sophisticated as these guys when it comes to jokes, and I'm certainly not a comedian by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, some good old bacon and eggs on Valeria's stomach. Oh God. So yeah, for anybody that remembers 9.5 weeks, that's what that whole scene is devoted to. I remember hearing that damn bugle many mornings. Many mornings I heard that damn thing. So John Cryer, because of his walleye vision, has now been kicked out of the unit. This wasn't a DOR situation. So, but interestingly enough, I mean, I also saw recently John Cryer. I saw him recently play Lex Luthor in the Supergirl series, which was a very nice connection to Superman 4, which he did in 1987. Let's see. And of course, he's done a lot of television since then, particularly 2.5 Men, but not a lot of movies. He hasn't really been back on the big screen all that much, and he wasn't in the sequel to Hot Shots. Very few characters transitioned over from 1 to 2. Very few did. But since we're going to wrap up Dead Meat Thompson's little story here, because he's meeting his wife right here, and all these coincidences. Oh yeah, that he's discovered who assassinated JFK. Of course, this came out the same year as Oliver Stone's JFK. But it seems like that a lot of bad luck is going to fall his way based on just walking underneath a ladder, and it's a mirror being broken. I mean, you get the idea. You get the idea. And he's discovered global warming. Oh my God. Like, yeah, he has everything. He has everything in his uniform ready to tell to the world all the secrets, everything. And yet he's probably about to die just because that's in his name. Dead Meat Thompson. Goes all the way to the White House. I'm in a jet. What could go wrong? Yeah, sure. But John Cryer is going to come back in and join in. William O'Leary, who plays Dead Meat, he was also in. He was in Bull Durham. He also, I mean, he did an episode of Miami Vice at that time. He did another movie called Flight of Black Angel the same year as Hot Shots, which was a little Showtime aviation film directed by Jonathan Mostow. I'm wondering if there's any connection between those two because they're both about fighter pilots. That's a very weird connection. He also plays in that movie. He plays Captain Eddie Gordon, call sign Black Angel. So he's actually the title. Wow, that's very, very interesting. He also had done a few episodes of like Murder She Wrote. He was in Candyman Farewell to the Flesh. We all remember that classic, don't we? And he also played Harley, the tournament director in Soccer Mom. So he hasn't been in much since then, and that's the thing. I mean, after Hot Shots, I really didn't see him in anything else. Although he did play the younger brother of Tim Allen's character on Home Improvement, and was the primary antagonist on Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. Okay, so there you go. He's actually done some stuff, but okay, I love this gag right here. See, that's exactly how I feel about Top Gun in a nutshell. I mean, those aerial sequences, they look like a bad 80s video game. I mean, like I said, even in the 80s when I first saw the movie as a very young kid, I just straight up didn't like it. And thankfully, I had discovered an Officer and a Gentleman before Top Gun, but oh no. Yeah, I mean, I know everybody loves John Cryer's Ducky, but I can't help but give him a shout out for Lenny and Superman 4, because even though the character was really wacky and stupid, and he was meant to bring in the younger audience. That's what the producers, I think, were kind of hoping for with Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, when he played Lex Luthor's nephew. But he actually calls Superman Dude of Steel. But you know what? I do give him props, because he really was a great Lex Luthor in Supergirl, the Supergirl television series. Yeah, these Hot Shots movies, um, they do have their fair share of Disney jokes. I think I like the ones in Part Deux a little bit better, but oh god, in comedy, I mean, it is an old rule that pain is funny. Uh, Ever since the Three Stooges, it's been like this. Pain is absolutely funny. Oh no! Oh no! Yeah. It's really going to be sad if I'm really going to be the only one opposing Top Gun Maverick. But the thing is that I do plan on seeing Maverick when it streams. Okay, I will give an opinion on it then. Uh, Look, there's a multitude of reasons why I'm not going to see Top Gun Maverick. I mean, I'd already seen The Northman twice this year in theater, and to me, that was the return to the cinema. Everybody is proclaiming Maverick as like this epic return to the cinema after 2 years of the pandemic, when really that should have been The Northman. I mean, The Northman, I think, deserved that box office fire. I mean, it's like, really, a Top Gun sequel? But see, the thing is, I am convinced. I am convinced in my heart of hearts that uh, it is going to be a better movie than the original. That I'm not going to find it as annoying, or I'm not gonna look at it as something that glorifies the military rather than just merely respects it. I really do have that concern. Uh, and I can't help it. I mean, whenever a movie has support from the Pentagon, I'm always very leery about it. It doesn't matter if it's a Top Gun movie or not. I'm always leery at the movies involving the military that don't have Pentagon support, because those are the ones that I'm sure tend to get it more right than more often than not. Because I mean, like I said, the Pentagon does not like embarrassment. They do not like embarrassment of the military or the armed services, and that's what I'm saying, is that even though I'm not 100% positive that they did not support the Hot Shots movies, I'm pretty certain, merely because of the fact that all the jets say the Navy on it, when in reality the jets say actually U.S. Navy. Yeah, who wants some hot nuts for the funeral? Yeah, exactly. I really like Lloyd Bridges in this movie, as well as his last performance in Jane Austen's Mafia, which I was lucky enough to also see on the big screen back in the 1990s. But Kevin Dunn, I knew primarily from he's the guy that's sitting next to Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. in the back of the limo here, who was about to leave. I remember him primarily from the movie Dave, directed by Ivan Reitman and starring Kevin Kline and Sigourney Weaver. He was his very first movie was as FBI agent Bird in Mississippi Burning, and he was also in Ghostbusters 2, as well as Blue Steel, the action thriller Marked for Death, The Bonfire, The Vanities, and Only the Lonely. So he had done a number of movies before Hot Shots. And then, of course, he had done 1492 Conquest of Paradise, which, despite being directed by Ridley Scott, it's probably one of his worst movies. He played J. Edgar Hoover in the movie Chaplin. He was in Dave, Beethoven's Second, Nixon, Godzilla, Small Soldiers. He played the father in Small Soldiers, and oh, he was also in Stir of Echoes. That's right. He played one of Kevin Bacon's neighbors in that. Yeah, as well as the Black Dahlia, All the King's Men, Transformers. He's in the Transformers movies. And his last movie was actually King Richard, the movie that Will Smith won Best Actor for. uh, I still can't believe that happened. I really still can't believe that happened. Now, it's weird because I swear on a later print, maybe on the television print, I don't know, but there's actually a different version of Hot Shots where we actually hear his father's voice when he actually brings out his father's eyes when he's on the Navy ship. But Charlie Sheen and Valeria Gallino really have a nice little rapport in both of these movies. And if you ever put your goddamn hands on my wife again, I will. See, and the thing is, well, okay. The sad thing is that adultery is a charge that is like very, very common in the military, and they usually use adultery as a cover for those who are accused of rape. Because the military has been covering up a rape culture for about 7 decades now, and adultery is usually something that I don't know if the writers were aware of this, but it is very true that they use adultery as a cover for those who are accused of rape, which is disgusting, and the military is 100% guilty of it. They will not admit to it, which is particularly tragic. I mean, they keep on saying zero tolerance, but I mean, I can speak from experience that yes, they have been covering up a rape culture for many, many decades. And that's why, I mean, whenever somebody comes up to me and says they want to join the military, I say, well, just be forewarned. I mean, it's just Why it's part of that system, I don't, it disgusts me beyond comprehension. I know. Why should I bring this up in the middle of a comedy that we're watching here? But look, the weird thing is, I mean, because of the fact that, I mean, now I feel guilty for laughing at that adultery joke, because in the military, once you know, I mean, in 1991, I didn't know that adultery was a cover for rape. I mean, I really had no idea. And now thinking about it, it's like, oh no, I shouldn't have laughed at that. That's terrible. Oh no. But here again, I don't think the writers were aware of that. I mean, maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But look, unfortunately, it's just an indisputable fact that had to be brought up, regardless on whether it's on a comedy commentary or not. I think it has to be brought up at one point or another, because, I think that the Pentagon is not doing enough to correct these issues. And, and it's amazing, just, all the money that we spend on defense, and yet we can't even properly prosecute those who deserve to be prosecuted, because they end up back in civilian life. They're not put on, lists, sex offender registries, and oh God. And like I said, the military deserves all the blame in the world for that. I mean, whenever they do training videos, it was just rife with victim blaming. But anyway, let's get back to the comedy here, because here we have a montage of different classic film parodies where they decided to go all out with the inside jokes and barbs here. They decided to repeat the 9.5 weeks gag, and as I said before, that was not done with trick photography. That was done for real. So now we have a spoof of Rocky, which I own the Rocky collection and I own the Rambo collection. So that's why I can't wait to get to part deux, because I mean it's just one giant Rambo joke practically. But yes, this is in fact a spoof of Gone with the Wind. Do I have to go back to that topic? No, I'm not going to go back there. So no. We know what this bit is from Gone with the Wind, and look, it's funny when they fall down the stairs. I mean, I'm not going to go any further with the subtext on that. But anyway, okay, here we have Superman. Topper Harley and Lois Lane, where Valeria Gallino is going to be Margot Kidder here, and we have this thing with the dove. And he just can't get that damn bird off his finger now. Yeah. I need time alone. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the beauty of the Hot Shots movies is that, okay, we are officially 56 minutes in. Timestamp 56 minutes in, somewhere in the Mediterranean, the SSSS. And so we're going to have this long protracted climax, which is, here again, this is straight out of Top Gun. Really? That's my name too. I'm going to talk more about Lloyd Bridges when we get into part deux. I'm really looking forward to that. But so yeah, they decided to make John Cryer's character in charge of radar. Of course, that was the natural, promotion that would have come out of him being kicked out of the unit because he has walleye vision and can't fly properly. without landing in Las Vegas, at least. And even though I got this joke, I mean, about, having the mask on you and that it, goes into the mask and everything, but I was like, wait a minute, which character? Oh, yeah, that's Christy Swan's character. Okay, this is a little bit of bad taste right here. Is the handicap spot gag. And have Carrie Elways wear curlers. I mean, why not? Okay. People say, comedies, one thing that people say a lot about comedies is hit or miss or mixed bag. And that's the thing. I mean, with a movie like this, I mean, how many times did you laugh during the movie? Because if you laughed more times than you didn't, like if more jokes actually landed for you, pun intended, would you watch the movie again? And with the Hot Shots movies, absolutely. And here again, I discovered these movies long before I joined the Navy, but the Navy has only put me in perspective about a lot of things that I didn't even really think of. Wake me up at 5:30. Yeah. Sabotage the entire unit. Yep, exactly. Let's see. Who is the... Now, the guy that plays Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.'s henchman is an actor by the name of Mark Arnott. And I can't seem to find anything on him. Oh yeah, Charles Barkley and Bill Laimbeer. Those were the basketball players that had appeared a bit earlier. Oh, yeah, right. I mean, I really hope that these actors all had fun working together on this because come on. I mean, when you have a script like this, how can you not have fun behind the scenes? I mean, the script is just too funny for words. The enemy toast, simple wordplay, a few puns here and there, and as we'll see in the sequel, sometimes they just say people's names in a funny way. Your secondary targets are here and here, an accordion factory and a mime school. Yeah. And here we got a few more gags, which will earn the film its PG-13 rating. In fact, I think these were like perfect examples of PG-13 films where I realized that, they could only allow the use of the F-bomb only once. But there are actually PG-13 movies that have more than one F-bomb, one of which is Big of all movies. And that's PG rated, actually. Tootsie, that's another one. Yeah, I mean, Dustin Hoffman distinctly says the word fuck twice. But then again, that was PG before PG-13, where they could get away with much more stuff in that. The most infamous being Can't Stop the Music, where not only do we see Valerie Perine's boobs, but we also see a guy hung like a horse in the YMCA musical number. I have that movie on Blu-ray too. Yeah, but this is PG-13 humor right here. A little too gross for the smallest kids, even though I mean they probably wouldn't even understand what exactly they're talking about here. We got incest humor. I mean, I mean, they actually go in that direction with this. But would I call this movie one of the funniest movies of the 90s? I mean, well, see, that's the thing. I mean, Hot Shots is barely a franchise. I mean, there's only two movies. Um, I tend to think of Jane Austen's Mafia as like an unofficial third film, just because it's the same director and writers and creative team. But I mean, these two movies are really of a piece, and I really wish they had made a Hot Shots Part Three. I really wish they did. But then again, you really think about it. Well, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Spoof Seagal movies? Are they going to do Jean Claude Van Damme movies? I mean, what do you do after spoofing Top Gun and Rambo? I mean, I'm sure that you could think of any number of things that were in the 1990s that probably could have, served as a perfect. I mean, they spoofed Cliffhanger in Ace Ventura when Nature Calls. But yeah, I mean, I've even racked my brain over the past 30 years. Like, what would you do for a Hot Shots 3? I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I always feel compelled when movies like this only got two films. I keep thinking what to do for a third film. Gremlins is another perfect example. And see, the thing is, the weird thing about the Hot Shots movies is while there's a lot of dated jokes in it, I mean, some of these jokes you would have to actually look up what exactly they're referencing to actually get the joke. Like I said, like the basketball duet that I spoke of earlier with Bill Lambier and Charles Barkley. I mean, if you're not in tune with basketball, I mean, you're not going to know exactly what the hell they're talking about. But still, I mean, there's enough jokes on a visual level. I mean, it's sort of like the same way with Spaceballs, is that there's enough visual jokes and there's enough movie references where more than enough audiences are familiar with those movies. I mean, I'm sure that, look, is Fabulous Baker Boys a forgotten movie? I think it is. I mean, I hate to say that. I mean, look, I mean, I'm sure it's one of Michelle Pfeiffer's best performances. And, of course, it has Jeff and Bo Bridges in it as well. But I don't hear a lot of people talking about it nowadays. I mean, same thing with 9.5 Weeks or, something like that. But everybody has seen Gone with the Wind. Everybody has seen Superman. A snot joke where, yeah, he actually sneezes on radar and it obscures, and he actually takes his own snot for objects on radar. That's pretty good. Oh, and Topper's just going through his PTSD again. Now, see, here's another 1991 reference, very unique, where, yeah, we hear George H.W. Bush say, "Read my lips. No new taxes." And of course, there were plenty more of taxes after that. But I'm wondering, I do wonder what the most hardcore of Top Gun fans do think of these movies, or even if they've even bothered to give them a chance. But I love this. The picture of I got a bogey, yeah. And I think that might be the same guy that has played Bogey in a number of other projects. I'm pretty sure he looks damn familiar. There was a movie that was released by 20th Century Fox 11 years before Hot Shots called The Man with Bogart's Face. It had an all-star cast. I mean, a lot of familiar faces of actors who played gangsters in the 30s and everything. So it was a really nice homage to Humphrey Bogart and his detective movies. I got the best pilot in the world up here. Yeah, right. Now, the guy playing Mailman Farnham, we saw him in the beginning, and we also am about to see him again here. He's played by an actor named Ryan Stiles, and he's best known for the original British series and American version of Whose Line Is It Anyway? And he also played Louis Kinniski on the Drew Carey Show. But he was also in Two and a Half Men. Yeah, and he was also a performer on Drew Carey's Improv Aganza. Mm-hmm. And the one playing Leland Buzz Harley, or rather Topper's father, is actually Bill Irwin. Now, I remember Bill Irwin distinctly from a movie that he made right before this called My Blue Heaven, which was the sequel to Goodfellas. It's a quasi comic sequel to Goodfellas, which is actually based on Henry Hill's experiences after he gets into the witness protection program. Well, Bill Irwin plays this FBI guy who just finds out he loves to dance, and that's like his comic steam all through all that. However, he made his film debut in the movie Popeye, the Robert Altman film, where he played Ham Gravy, the old boyfriend, and then he was in 1988. He made two films, A New Life and Eight Men Out. Where he played Eddie Collins in Eight Men Out with John Cusack. And then he was in My Blue Heaven, Scenes from a Mall with Bette Midler and Woody Allen, Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit. He was in the 1999 version of Midsummer Night's Dream, the Jim Carrey version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Denzel Washington version of The Manchurian Candidate, M. Night Shyamalan's Lady in the Water. I mean, he's still very much working. I mean, he's still very much a character actor working and has a long, long resume, as I just pointed out there. So, but Charlie Sheen is going to save the day here in true Maverick style. Look, and I'm going to say this also about Top Gun is that, look, Tony Scott did his job. Tony Scott did his job with the original Top Gun, and that's why, I'm more than willing to let him go. What I don't like is the fact that how much they tried to make it an officer and a gentleman just with military support. And of course, like I said, for the jingoistic propaganda that it's become a joke, I think, at least in some quarters. I mean, I saw a documentary. One of my favorite documentaries that's ever been made is about the Motion Picture Association of America, which I talked about in detail in my Officer and a Gentleman review when they gave it an X rating. They actually mentioned Top Gun in that documentary and they say, America has gotten this constant drumbeat that the military is good, that it can do no wrong. And, just the jingoism. We were 100% wrong in Vietnam. The government will not admit to it, but we were 100% wrong. And like I said, I do not believe a word my government says to me. I don't. I will never believe any word my government tells me because I think there's been enough covered up. And I think there's been enough kept under wraps from the American public, which I actually think does damage. I mean, we need that transparency. But, when they're willing to lock up whistleblowers and other people pointing out, hey, we shouldn't be doing this, it's so frustrating. And that's why I've always had mixed feelings about my military service in general. I certainly had some great experiences. I mean, I cannot deny that it was an amazing experience at times, but overall, I expected so much more of the military. I really did. Despite the fact that I put blood, sweat, and tears into my work. I mean, what can you do? Now, the actor that plays Saddam Hussein He's going to be back in a much more bigger supporting role in part deux. So it actually suggests that he survives this bomb being dropped on him. Where landing, you want to get out of the way. Just classic stuff. Classic. And that's the thing. Hot Shots, it also understands the brevity of comedy because look, it's 84 minutes. And even with the credits, because the credits is part of that 84 minutes, we have to stay through the end credits just for the added jokes that they throw in there, which, here again, I mean, it actually, I may be wrong, but I think the very first post end credit sequence is attributed to Airplane. If I'm wrong on that, somebody call me out on it, but I do believe it's Airplane, and that's when, like I said at the very, basically those guys are still waiting outside, and they said, okay, we'll give them another 15 minutes, and then we're going in the SWAT team. It's I believe that was the very first time that it was experimented with, and I think even the end credits of Paramount of Airplane did even incorporate those jokes. It might have started with Naked Gun. I don't know. But these guys, Jim Abrams, David Zucker, and Jerry Zucker, are really the ones responsible for launching this brand of spoof comedy that had never been experienced before. And these movies from 20th Century Fox are, they're basically offshoots of that Airplane style humor and that Naked Gun style humor, but they still have their own distinctive voices. I mean, Jim Abrams, after he broke off from the team after the Naked Gun, from the Files of Police Squad, he wanted to do his own thing. He wanted to do his own type of comedy and focus on a particular movie, in this case, Top Gun. And like I said, the movie was very, very successful. Made $180 million at the box office on a $20 million budget. So, yeah, I'm going to Disneyland. You want to go down to Disneyland now after everything has changed? Wow. Yeah, all those taxes that Disney are going to have to pony up now. Yeah, we're going to see what happens in Florida, but I always love this joke of him getting the blood transfusion and the guy literally shrinking. The guy literally shrinking next to him as the blood is drained out of his entire body. Wonderful men like you in the cockpit. German parts. Just a timestamp real quick. We are 1 hour and 15 minutes into Hot Shots. We have approximately 9 minutes left to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the stream, and I will be back here in approximately 5-6 minutes, and we will go ahead and start Hot Shots Part 2, which unfortunately, like I said, is not available for free on YouTube. I wish it was. Unfortunately, Hot Shots Part 2, there's going to be a rental fee involved in that, but yeah. That's how Disney is sneaking around that. I mean, oh yeah, we'll provide the first movie for free on YouTube, but if you want part 2, you're gonna have to pay for it. So that's obviously not Lloyd Bridges, but hey, I mean, it's the magic of the movies. I mean, I'd like to think it was Lloyd Bridges. You risk the lives of some damn fine pilots. Well, that's my job. And what could be worse than landing in a dentist chair with no Novocaine and being drilled? Now, like I said, there is a print of this movie where we actually hear his father's voice. And I forget what he says exactly. It's like, "You did him proud, son," or something like that. we don't need that. It wasn't in the theatrical print. It wasn't on the VHS print. I am absolutely certain of that. It appeared on a television print later. I mean, and it was probably easily dubbed in. I mean, maybe Fox was responsible or not. I don't know. I mean, somebody at Fox had to be clever and say, "Oh, I'll just loop this line in here." It's like, it wasn't written by the writers. I'm pretty certain of that. And no, young lady, that is not the cotton candy. It most certainly isn't. But we're going to talk more about Valeria Gallino and Lloyd Bridges when the sequel starts here pretty soon. So, do I prefer the sequel or the original? I prefer the sequel. I do prefer the sequel. I mean, even though I have lavished much laughter on the original Hot Shots and enjoy all the spoofs and everything else that I recognize from actually, living from this era, some better for worse. The truth of the matter is that I do prefer the sequel in that I do think that the jokes are a little bit better. I think they double down on the humor. I think they make the characters, dare I say it, even more likable and more funny. I do like Part Deux a lot, and I'm not alone in that because apparently Sylvester Stallone, of all people, is a fan of Hot Shots Part Deux. Well, of course, when you're going to cast Richard Krenna in a role that is pretty much the same thing as Colonel Troutman from the Rambo First Blood movies, Stallone was going to watch it eventually, and like I said, he probably got a good laugh out of it. But what Tom Cruise thought of Hot Shots, impossible to say. It's impossible to say. I mean, I wish I had some kind of source, but unfortunately, I have nothing on that. And so we go back into the Dances with Wolves spoof here, delivering a cassette, some batteries to his Native American chieftain. Yeah. Now come and inhale some helium with me. So yeah, I'm going to take about a 5 to 7 minute break, and actually, yeah, I'm going to take a 5 to 7 minute break, and we'll be back here right after 10:30 p.m., maybe 10:31 to 10:32 p.m., and we will go ahead and get started on Hot Shots Part Deux. But yeah, this original film though was a massive hit. Audiences liked it, critics liked it. It was a comedy that was well liked by most that saw it back in 1991. And here we have some great end credits here. Topping for brownies: half a cup of butter, 2.25 cups of confectioner's sugar, 2 egg yolks beaten. They put these recipes in the end credits, which I always found just hysterical. Something you might have missed: sound design and supervision by Sandy Berman, MPSE, RSVP. That one's a little too obvious. But see, it also gives incentives because I always, if I like the movie, I tend to stay in the end credits in the theaters. I mean, whether it's to enjoy the music or whatnot, things to do after the movie: start a story hour at the local library, visit a dairy and see how milk is handled and prepared for delivery. We got end credits like that. But I always like to stay through the end credits just because I have enough respect for the filmmakers and the crew that I'm willing to give them that attention. And a lot of times I actually do enjoy the music score that plays over the end credits. But yeah, so I would give the first Hot Shots a solid 4 out of 5. But like I said, I like Part Deux just the tiniest bit better, just the tiniest bit better. So, and here we have a a recipe for knobby buns. I've never tried making these recipes actually. I mean, I've seen them so many times that I'm wondering if those are actual like real genuine recipes or whether they just embellish them a little bit. Buffalo and wolf supplied by Wild Things. Yeah. They actually credited the masseuse. Okay, Cheryl Morehouse, the masseuse. Okay. I'm glad that the cast and crew was able to get a massage every once in a while. I mean, I think the budget for this movie, I think a large part of it was either due to Sheen's salary. I mean, I know that I'm pretty sure that he got a pay raise for Part Deux. I mean, considering the fact he legitimately does get in shape for that role. Duck animatronics by Chris Wallace Incorporated. He's the guy behind The Fly that won the Oscar for that. And yes, they actually do have an aerial unit for Hot Shots. See, aircraft and pilots provided by Flight Magic Incorporated. Yeah, the Navy did not support the making of Hot Shots. No way. No way. And here we have our cast. Yeah, Red Herring, Mailman Farnham. And they actually do put in there Rhett Butler, Charlie Sheen, Scarlett O'Hara, Valeria Gallino. It's great. I love it when they do that. Pat Proft, one of the writers, played Lawrence Lips. Jimmy Ray Weeks is Amish Man. And then the family in front of the TV store is, of course, the director's family. Although I don't remember a family in front of a TV store. And I've seen this movie so many times. I think I would have remembered that. You Can't Touch This by MC Hammer, who, by the way, was actually in the Navy. MC Hammer was a storekeeper for a while, SK3 Hammer, as he was known to those on board his ship. So that's a very interesting connection. Here again, I don't think the writers knew that though when they wrote the movie because the soundtrack is usually added later as jokes. Like, what hit song can we put there for the Indian chief to listen to? Oh yeah. We'll have them listen to MC Hammer's "Can't Touch This." Yeah, there you go. And finally, if you had left the theater when these credits began, you'd be home now. So yeah, that is the 1991 film Hot Shots. I'm going to take a 5 to 7 minute break. I will be back about 10:35 p.m. and we will watch Part Deux until midnight. I will be right back. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Currently paused at the 20th Century Fox logo for Hot Shots Part 2. Now, this came out approximately 2 years after the first Hot Shots movie, and I still remember distinctly seeing Part 2 in the theaters with my parents. Uh, yeah, and this was one of the rare times I think where we all three of us enjoyed the same movie. In equal ways. I mean, we all laughed our asses off to this movie. In fact, we even brought a couple friends with us, and they loved it too. So here again, I think it's another example where it hit the right target at the right time, whereas the first film decided to go after Top Gun and numerous other films. Now we're going to go ahead and just double down on all that, and and the main thing is going to be Charlie Sheen, because he really did get in shape for this role, to play Topper Harley and to go into rescue soldiers that that uh, have have been lost due to trying to rescue other soldiers. But at any rate, we're gonna get into it, because this came out just roughly a little bit out of after the Iraqi war. And I'm actually, on this recent viewing, I was actually surprised that the filmmakers actually had the balls to get away with some of the stuff that they did here. I mean, the Rambo movies, they're problematic in their own ways. After watching Hot Shots Part 2 again, I mean, it's like, how many of the real world events that they managed to make allusions to, and that they get away with. But anyway, I think we should go ahead and get started here. So I'm paused at the 20th Century Fox logo for Hot Shots Part 2, and we will go ahead and start right now on 3, 2, 1, and play. And here we have the 20th Century Fox logo for Hot Shots Part 2. And like I said, just 2 years after the original came out, we had this sequel, which did almost as well box office wise. I mean, this time the budget was a little bit higher, and the budget was a little higher, and the box office was just a little bit less. But okay, I have to cut the volume here. Yeah, watching this on Amazon Prime, because for some reason Disney is not showing these movies on Disney Plus, which I think is a shame. I'm really not too happy with how they've handled the 20th Century Fox library. Yeah, I mean, in the theater, I mean, this being the very first joke, and there were people that were laughing already very loud, to that very first joke of, the screwing up the typing on the typewriter. So, I mean, there are a couple of minor players back from the first Hot Shots movies, but for the sequel, it's pretty much the three leads. The three leads being Charlie Sheen, Valeria Gallino, and Lloyd Bridges. There are a couple other people. I'll point them out when they come up, that were in the original film, although they played different characters. And of course, a lot of the same crew is back for this sequel. But of course, there were other key differences, including the music score, which we didn't really talk about the music score with the original film, but we're going to touch base on that here with the change in composers. Rowan Atkinson, very famous now for playing Mr. Bean, and Johnny English. This was one of his first movies. old Iraqi beer, in the style of it's and Jamal. Oh god, oh man, that joke doesn't fly now. Hungry nomad. I mean that's the thing. Would people from this area really find those jokes that offensive? Would they? I don't know. Always with these kind of jokes, I think to myself, okay, as a child, I got them totally and I laughed my ass off. But now times have changed so much is that would people actually find this stuff offensive? Come on. There's nothing wrong with Saharan rap. There's nothing wrong with that. Although the kids with the gun the gun on the lunch boxes, that's weird in its own way. Oh God. Uh, this was also a huge laugh in the theater. Like I said, maybe it's just because I saw this movie in almost a full audience in a crowded theater. I'm inclined to enjoy this one a little bit better just because I have that experience. Because, like I said, I didn't experience the first Hot Shots when it came out in the theater, and I discovered it right when it hit home video. 6 months after it came out, I was there for the first Hot Shots movie, and that's what I'm saying is that I wanted to see Part Deux in the theaters, no matter what. I was like, I missed the first one, I got to see the second one. So like I said, all these familiar names right here, they were all names you would recognize from the first film in terms of its credits. The Dustbuster and the Clapper. Those were two staples of the 1990s that I don't think people Dustbusters, I'm pretty sure still exist. They're just a little different now, I think, in shape and size. But I don't think people do the Clapper anymore. See, he just did the Clapper there, where you all you'd have to do is clap and the lights go out. It just, I would hate doing that. I would not want to do that. I don't want to clap every time I need to turn the light on and off. It's something that I would go crazy doing. I just want to deal with the light switch. Let me just deal with the light switch, okay? Of course, yeah, and yes, this is the same actor who played Saddam Hussein in the original film. And that actor's name would be Jerry Haliva. He's an American actor and a political lobbyist. He gained fame as an actor as a doppelganger of Saddam Hussein due to his physical resemblance to the late Iraqi leader, with all of his film roles having him portraying Hussein. He is actually a Sephardic Jew in real life, a member of the Republican Party, and has worked as a lobbyist for the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, among others. In 1973, he was an advisor to a legislative committee investigating prison conditions in California. He served in the California Senate in 1977 as chief of staff for William Campbell. Well, you know what? That's alone is interesting on its own, but of course he was later in The Big Lebowski and Jane Austen's Mafia. So he should be recognizable to Big Lebowski fans as So at any rate, we are 7 minutes into Hot Shots Part Deux. And like I said, even though this film didn't do as well box office wise, I do think that it doubles down on the jokes and it doubles down on the on the targets that it goes after, which whether they're political or otherwise. I mean, Naked Gun 2.5 was famous for making fun of George Bush and, of course, Barbara Bush. Of course, I mean, having a door slammed in her face by Lieutenant Drebin. But now you have, Lloyd Bridges as Tug Benson hitting every surviving president with a shovel. But it's funny, in that lineup right there, the only president that's still alive from that lineup is Jimmy Carter. And he's in his 90s now. Now, here we have Richard Krenna. Yes, the legendary Richard Krenna. And he is not playing Colonel Troutman in this movie, but rather a comic version of Troutman, where his character name is Colonel Denton Walters. And you could pretty much gather that, even if you've never seen Rambo, you know that he's associated with that series. So what this movie does, while the first film basically attacked Top Gun, this film is going to go after Rambo First Blood Part 2 and Rambo 3. Where Richard Crenna actually returned as Colonel Troutman in both those movies. And in both of those movies, in the beginning, usually had to recruit Rambo from some exotic Asian locale so that he could go back into action and do his deed for America. I'm a fan of the very first Rambo movie, First Blood, from 1982, directed by Ted Kotcheff. I think it's actually an action masterpiece to the point where I'm even willing to choose it as the best action movie of the 1980s over Die Hard. That's a pretty tall assessment there, but I do think that Sylvester Stallone earned it. I mean, Rocky may be his best franchise and is definitely the better franchise. But Rambo, the weird thing about Rambo is the first film, it took a long time for Morell's book to get to the screen. As a matter of fact, in 1980, there was even a version, a weird offshoot version of First Blood before First Blood, called oh my god, and another moment where the title escapes me and I just embarrassed myself. One moment. It's got Linda Blair in it. But it's a film that nobody's seen called Ruckus, which includes Dirk Benedict, who is best known from the A-Team for playing Lieutenant Templeton Faceman Peck on the A-Team television series. And that is an interesting version of First Blood because it's essentially First Blood meets the Dukes of Hazzard. It's entertaining for what it is. It's nowhere near as powerful as First Blood is. Not even close. But if you manage to catch it on television, I mean, it's what I would call a classic example of a rainy Saturday afternoon flick, where there's nothing to do, but of course times have changed because we have so much entertainment now at our fingertips that the rainy afternoon flick doesn't really apply to anymore, because I'm talking specifically about watching movies during the 60s and the 70s and the 80s where we only had 3 channels. I mean, that's the thing. The only way you could watch movies is you go to a theater or you watched a censored version on television. And that's the way it was all the way until cable became a thing in the 1980s, although few people could afford cable at that time. I mean, I remember that we had the trial run for cable as long as we possibly could. And my father honestly felt that it wasn't worth it to pay for a package of channels, many of which you're never going to watch. And that's what I'm saying is that I personally do not have a cable package, but if I did, I would get it only for Turner Classic Movies. That would be like literally the only thing. I don't need 50 sports channels. I mean, sure, I could watch the retro television channels from time to time, but look, I mean, I still got a stack of movies to watch until the day I die. So, I don't watch as much television as other people do, unfortunately. But like I said, Charlie Sheen did get pumped up for this role. I mean, he legitimately spent months getting into shape to play a variation on John Rambo, a comic variation on Rambo. And here again, I mean, I respect what Stallone was doing with First Blood Part 2 and Rambo 3. I understand what Stallone was doing, and I respect what he was doing. They work as comic book movies, but as sequels to First Blood, I just don't think that they measure up. They lack that raw power that I think the first film had. Now, I do like the fourth Rambo film, which is set in Myanmar. I think that's without a doubt the best Rambo film since the original First Blood in 1982. And it's funny because one of the films that I bought off of Amazon Prime and I have in my rather small digital collection is actually the extended cut of Last Blood, which is okay. It's an okay movie. Here again, I understand and respect what Stallone was doing with the Rambo sequels, but I think the only one that actually worked was the fourth one. And that one actually dodged a lot of bullets when it came out because what happened is that, look, Rambo First Blood Part 2, well, Rocky 4 and Rambo First Blood Part 2 were swept the Razzie Awards. I absolutely disagree with those assessments. I do not believe that Part 2 and Part 3 were necessarily bad movies. I just think that I just did not like the direction that they took the character, where you take a Vietnam veteran, an ex-Green Beret, who is suffering from major PTSD, and you go to him and say, we'll tell you what, everything that happened in First Blood, yeah, we'll wipe that off your record and you'll be a free man and very clean if you'll do this job for us where you help us bring back prisoners of war. But of course, Rambo finds out that the government, of course, has lied and everything. There are things about Part 2 that I like. The action is spectacular. My problem is that I don't like how the character of Rambo is written. There are things about Part 2 that just don't jive with me, particularly the female lead character and some just other very silly aspects to it, which here again, it's, here we have the cameo for Bob Vila right here. But the weird thing is that I saw First Blood Part 2 on television, and I remember finding it fun without knowing necessarily what the political context to it all was. And I own the Rambo collection, and I watch those movies from time to time. I do, in fact, watch Part 2 and Part 3, and I'll watch Part 5 on occasion. I like that series. And I like the Rocky series. But here again, some films are better than others. And the fact that I own the franchise is enough, should be enough to let everybody know that I do watch these movies in order from 1 to 5. And that my whole thing is that I don't have a preference between Rambo 2 and 3. I think that they're both just a bit too similar and a bit too, overdone just in terms of the action and the violence and everything. When, you know, it's disappointing that, with First Blood being a very tragic story, that the sequels are basically turning John Rambo into comic book adventures. Again, completely understood what Stallone was doing. I just think that the results were less than successful, even though the second film in particular made a insane amount of money at the box office, which of course only added to people wanting to give the film a lot of ridicule. It won the Razzie Award for Worst Picture in 1985. And for the record, I disagree with that 200%. I don't think it's even close. And that's where I'm saying I'm giving Stallone the benefit of the doubt, in that, here again, I completely understand what he was doing. I don't hate him in any way for going in the direction that he went with the Rambo series and moving away from the David Morrell source material. But the point is that at the time that Hot Shots Part Deux, by the time Part Deux came out in 1993, I honestly saw very little of the Rambo series. I had watched the Rocky series, but I still had not immersed myself into the Rambo series. And my father, unfortunately, was one of those guys that unfortunately did not like Stallone and thought that the Rambo films were a joke, and even in his mind, a little bit of offensive, which I'm not going to explain just because of the fact that my father, who's now passed away, whatever his opinion was irrelevant. My opinion of Stallone is 1,000% different, in that I enjoy most of his films. I think he's made some straight up classics that need to be cherished and viewed over and over again. But the thing is that the Rocky franchise and the Rambo franchise, they both have their fair share of low points. And Part Two, here again, it's fun, but at the same time, it misses the point of the David Morrell source material when Stallone decided to make it a comic book. And that continued it with the third film. Now, the fourth film that Stallone directed, however, was excellent. I actually had a lot of fun with the fourth Rambo movie. And I thought, if you're going to do a Rambo movie where Rambo has made it to his 60s, this is how you do it. And like I said, I actually, two of my favorite Stallone films were actually Rocky Balboa and Rambo 2008. And that's why, I mean, when Last Blood came out, I was actually very disappointed that he decided to add on top of 4, because I thought that 4 would have been a perfect way to end the series. But I do have a digital copy of it, which I've watched a couple of times now. And Last Blood is, I kind of like the extreme violent nature of it, despite the fact that I do think that it really stretches the credibility of the character and the franchise as a whole. It's okay. I don't mind the Mexican drug cartel use for the villains this time around. I mean, it was okay. I thought it was perfectly fine. I mean, some people may have a problem with it, but at least it's a movie that does shine a light on that very real issue with the Mexican drug cartels. At least it shines a light on it, as the fourth film did with Myanmar in 2008. Yeah, I mean, Richard Krenna in this role. Okay, see here, there's another joke that I think is a little racy now because that is a towel head joke, and so somebody got thought of the idea. Well, if they're going to wear a towel on his head, why not be a towel from the Holiday Inn? Uh, I see that's the thing. I mean, what would people from that area of the world would they find this funny or would they ban it immediately? I wouldn't blame them if they banned it, but like, it's a comedy, relax. I mean, it's not there's nothing vicious or mean about the humor in this movie. I mean, it does play around with these stereotypes a little bit and delivering the gags and the jokes, but you know, oh, oh yes. So, of course, Charlie Sheen as Topper Harley is going to be called back into service to rescue the soldiers that went in to rescue the soldiers that went in to rescue the soldiers and blah, 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 that got lost during Desert Storm. Very much of its time in that, I mean, I was a kid during all these conflicts, so it's difficult to add my own interpretation of it all. But at the same time, I mean, here again, why don't we do something more about North Korea, despite the fact that there are people being tortured there and are enduring, if not far worse than what Saddam Hussein did as a terrorist. I mean, if not worse. But like I said, I don't believe a word the government says. Yeah, Lloyd Bridges is the president. A real joy right here. So, I mean, in the first film, he was a Navy admiral with a loose propeller, as a critic would say, and now he's the president of the United States, who has busts of Lincoln that are actually cookie jars. It's And there were consistent laughs throughout the movie. I think that they did. Kudos to the editors because I think they did a terrific job of picking the best bits. I don't remember the DVD versions because I mean that's the thing. Hot Shots, the movies, they're only available on physical media. They're only available on DVD. They are not available on Blu-ray. They're not even available on Blu-ray overseas. And I think that's a tragedy. And the fact that, of course, Disney owns the films now, it's very unlikely that we're ever going to see any kind of collector's edition with bonus features or anything like that. The Hot Shots movies are kind of lost to time in a sense, in that and you would think with the new Maverick movie out, you would think that there would be a room nowadays for a new Hot Shots movie to come out, which would make fun of Maverick. But then again, you know, there might not be a lot of people that make fun of Maverick. I mean, who knows? I mean, we still have yet to see the box office results as they're coming in this weekend. And here again, uh, I'm not here to spit on Maverick in any way, because the reaction to Maverick seems to be absolutely unanimous, and it's a little scary. It's a little uncomfortable from my point of view. Um, I'm here again. I'm willing to watch it when it hits streaming. I am not willing to watch it in a theater. I can't bring myself to, and I love going to the Alamo Draft House, and even going there for some pirate punches, I don't think is enough for me to get through Maverick. I just don't think it's near enough. If somebody wanted to buy me a ticket, I would actually probably consider at that point. Although I would probably insist on alcohol on top of all that. I can't bring myself to do it. There's Mitchell Ryan right there, who was in Lethal Weapon, and he was also in Grosse Point Blank, which is one of my favorite comedies. And Brenda Bach right here, she didn't do much outside of Hot Shots Part Deux. She didn't do much. I was looking her up earlier, and it's very interesting. Her first movie was that horrible movie from 1986 called Last Resort. It's one of those perverted TNA movies that came out at the time. She started out in those kind of movies. She started out in movies like Last Resort and Hard Bodies 2. And she was in the classic Death Spa. We all remember that, right? Directed by Michael Fisher. And starring Ken Foree and Vanessa Bell Calloway. Oh, yeah, that's a real classic right there. Hot Shots Part 2 was her only big movie. Although she was in Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight, she was also in Under Siege 2 Dark Territory, where she played a captain in that movie. I don't remember watching the Under Siege movies, but yeah, outside of that, she didn't do much else. She had done television shows too, like American Gothic and CSI and NYPD Blue. And she hasn't done anything for a few years. So, yeah, she's probably doing well for herself. Yeah. But she is very sexy in this movie, I must admit. So, of course, we start out where apparently Ramada, played by Valeria Gallino, has dumped Tapa Harley sometime between the first movie and the second movie. So now Charlie Sheen's like, I'm going to go home with this woman that recruited me for this new assignment. Why not? If I'm going to die out there in the jungle rescuing soldiers, I might as well get laid with the woman that's hand-picked him. And damn, Charlie, with the tongue there. Wow. Mm. So do a timestamp here real quick. We are approximately 30 minutes into Hot Shots Part 2, and we got approximately 58 minutes left to go. And that's the thing. I mean, with the way these movies are, I would insist that you watch them back to back. Obviously, if you want to take a break between watching both movies, whether it's a day or whether it's a month, it's up to you. I still think that even if you don't find the first film that funny, I would say give the sequel a chance if you like any of the actors or the characters at the very least. And of course, a lot of the same type of jokes are here, although some of them are repeated ad nauseum. Some of them are a little repetitive. And now here is the spoof for Basic Instinct, which, comparably speaking to the spoof of 9.5 Weeks from the original film, that's the thing is like, what were they going to do next? They should have made a spoof of like Color of Night or something. Remember that Bruce Willis masterpiece, which that won the Razzie Award for Worst Picture as well. It was the only award it won, despite the fact it got like 13 nominations or something like that. Yeah. But this could easily be a spoof of any other erotic thriller as well. Oh my God. Even as a kid, I thought this was dopey stuff. I thought really, because it always felt drawn out. Like, and of course, I was able to access, much more hardcore stuff by that time by other means. But I mean, these softcore thrillers, oh God, they age so badly. They age so badly. I mean, like I said, I mean, they had a purpose back in the day, which is, like I said, if you wanted to just simply rent movies with nudity in them, that was their whole purpose back in the day. Now they have absolutely no purpose with the internet. And I mean, because like I said, Brenda Bach, when she started out in movies, she made movies like Private Resort and Hard Bodies 2. The whole purpose of those movies was for, basically perverted kids to rent. And look, I saw every movie, so I was one of those perverted kids too that saw those movies. Usually they were on television, and like I said, I would always catch them at such weird times. Like they would actually show Hard Bodies in the afternoon, as like a rainy Saturday afternoon movie. But of course, they would have all the nude shots cut out. So it's like, well, you're going to watch it and be frustrated. It's like, why can't I watch the video cassette version? Because that has all the nudity. And of course, we damaged so many VHS tapes back in the day by just, rewinding and fast forwarding, rewinding and fast forwarding. I mean, those were the days when, you had to jump through hoops just to see a little bit of nudity in a movie. And that's why, we have websites now like Mr. Skin that celebrate those good old days of fast forwarding during the VHS era. But there was another spoof at this time that was all about making fun of Fatal Attraction and Basic Instinct, and that was Fatal Instinct with Armand Arsante. And I remember that being on the level of like Loaded Weapon 1, and in that, it had its fair share of laughs, and yet at the same time, they weren't nearly as consistent with the laughs as, say, the Naked Gun movies or even the Hot Shots movies. So we had the Lady and the Tramp spoof already, and so now we have Ramada breaking up with Charlie Sheen, top of Harley at the train station here. Oh, I love the card. I've always loved that card ever since I saw it in the theaters. I thought that was, that's heartbreaking. Yeah, recycled paper. That's the joke, but yeah. Mm-hmm. But like I said, this film, as a sequel to the 1991 original, it, like I said, it does take risks in that it does experiment with a variety of other jokes. Some that I think that people were not expecting, especially the meta humor. And like I said, we still haven't gotten to the centerpiece of the movie, which is, I think, the funniest moment in the whole movie, which will involve Charlie Sheen and his father, Martin Sheen, both being on screen at the same time. So here we have Miguel Ferrer. There, you're out and they're in. Yeah. Miguel Ferrer was in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. And he was also in the original RoboCop movie, where he met a very memorable death in that when somebody comes to kill him and just says, bitches leave. And, he's busy smoking, snorting cocaine with these two models and everything. Miguel Ferrer is fun in practically everything that he does. And of course, he has one of the more familiar lines of Hot Shots Part Deux when he says, well, we'll just wait till it gets there. We'll just wait till it gets there. But let's see. Miguel Ferrer, he passed away in 2017. And I do remember that, yes, he was in Twin Peaks. He was in Iron Man 3. He was in Traffic. He contributed a voice in Milan. And he also had a recurring role as NCIS Assistant Director Owen Granger on NCIS Los Angeles, all the way up until his death in 2017 at the age of 61. So yeah, he wasn't very old when he passed away, but luckily people remember him now from RoboCop as well as Hot Shots Part Deux. And I was going to talk about the music real quick because the composer of the first movie is somebody that did not have a large career in film afterward, while the composer for the sequel has actually done a lot more on film. Now, the original composer for the first film is a man by the name of Sylvester Levay. He's a Yugoslavian Hungarian recording artist and composer. And let's see here. I mean, from 1980 to 2000, he lived in Hollywood and concentrated on composing film music. He composed songs for notable artists like Elton John and Penny McLean, and he was awarded with a Grammy for his 1975 song "Fly Robin Fly." Well, there you go, flying Hot Shots. Yeah, that goes together. Absolutely. Before Hot Shots, he had done some of the music for Scarface. He was a music arranger on Scarface. He had also worked on the Flashdance soundtrack. Both of those films, he worked on those with Giorgio Moroder. And he also did Where the Boys Are 84, Creator 1985, Mannequin 1987, Navy SEALs 1990, which also had Charlie Sheen, of course. And since then, he's done some musicals like Mozart, Rebecca, and Marie Antoinette. Now, he did not come back for the sequel. The composer behind the second film that we are watching right now is actually Basil Polidorus. And Basil Polidorus is basically the guy who is responsible for composing my favorite film score of all time, which of course is Conan the Barbarian. But he also composed RoboCop, which of course had Miguel Ferrer in it, as I just mentioned. And he had done many other films like The Blue Lagoon and Big Wednesday, Red Dawn, Protocol, Flesh and Blood, Iron Eagle, which was the Top Gun clone, which I hate to say it, I'd rather watch Iron Eagle than Top Gun. But anyway, I mean, Iron Eagle has Louis Gossett Jr. at any rate. And then, of course, RoboCop. He also did Sherry 2000, The Hunt for Red October, Quigley Down Under, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, Wind, Hot Shots Part Deux. He also did the same year Free Willy, and he also did RoboCop 3. He did not compose the score to RoboCop 2, but he did do RoboCop 3, as well as Under Siege 2, Free Willy 2, one of my favorite films I just did a commentary on, Breakdown, Starship Troopers, Les Miserables, and of course one of his last films was the 2002 film The Touch, which was a Hong Kong action-adventure martial arts movie. But yeah, he also died very, very young. He was only 61 as well when he died. So he and Miguel Ferrer were both the same age when they passed away. That's sad, man. But here again, we get to appreciate their work on screen in films like Hot Shots Part Deux. Both his score, I really like his score here. Yeah, I mean, I really like the score for the original too. I mean, I'd be hard pressed for me to pick which one I'd rather go with. But here we have the return of Valeria Gallino as the most beautiful and ravishing Ramada. Now, one of the jokes in this movie is that all the female characters have the middle name of Rodham, named after Hillary Rodham Clinton, of course. One of the many obscure political references that are sprinkled throughout this genius of spoof comedy. Yes, indeed. Yeah. But we never really got a chance to talk about Valeria Gallino in the first movie because, like I said, well, we have to. I mean, a lot of stuff I had to save for to record for the sequel. And just to give everybody a timestamp real quick, we are approximately 43 minutes into Hot Shots Part Deux. We're 43 minutes in, we have approximately 45 minutes left to go for Hot Shots Part Deux. Anybody that showed up tonight, thank you so much for coming. I mean, I didn't expect a lot of people to show up tonight just because I think people, I don't know. I think that people would rather watch Maverick nowadays, which is fine. You know, I mean, people want to go back to the movie theaters. I'm all for that. I applaud that. But I'm going to stay here and enjoy Hot Shots. So, yeah, we're coming up here on the centerpiece. Hell is the impossibility of reason. Yes, we are, in fact, quoting uh, Apocalypse Now. And we're also quoting Platoon right at the same time. And that is, in fact, Martin Sheen playing his character from Apocalypse Now. And I'm telling you right now, hearing the laughter at this moment in the theater was one of the great moments in a theater in my life. Everybody lost their shit at that moment. Everybody lost their shit at the Apocalypse Now / Platoon spoof. I mean, it really hit home for a lot of people. Now, this guy right here, report my signal over. He was in the original Hot Shots, but he was a completely different character. He's the one that actually gives the earplugs to Admiral Benson. He ends up swallowing them with water. He's the guy that actually gives the earplugs to him. And in this movie, though, he has a completely different character. I kind of wish they had brought back maybe like Carrie Elways and John Cryer, you know, maybe just have them, you know, just jump on in just to say hi. But no, they decided not to do that, and instead, well, don't get me wrong. Lloyd Bridges, Charlie Sheen, and Valeria Gallino is enough for me. And, you know, here again, there's a number of other perks like the Basil Doris music, as well as, you know, the great role, the great performance by Saddam Hussein in this movie, which it's. Look, I'd like to think that the real life Saddam Hussein actually watched the movie and at least laughed at himself a bit. But, you know, not to downplay, I mean, Hussein was a horrible, horrible person. But did we have justification to go after him? I don't know. But to be perfectly honest, I also don't believe that Osama bin Laden was hunted down by the Navy SEALs. I think that he died years before. So, and that's why I'm saying any movie that has the seal of approval by the Pentagon, particularly something like Zero Dark 30, where they actually consulted with the filmmakers firsthand, uh, I'm inclined not to believe a word of it. That's just the way I am. I love that joke right there. You know, a horse walks into a bar and the bartender says, "Why the long face?" I mean, they really do double down on the jokes when it comes to, you know, like these you got to be joking jokes and the visual humor and just all that, and of course the spoofs. I mean, we haven't even touched the surface yet of getting into all the spoofs that are going to dominate the second half of this movie, because they are going to come in full force. And like I said, it was a nice balance between, because apparently there's a whole sequence here on the water where every shot is literally the same beat for beat of a sequence from the Guns of Navarone. And that's what I'm saying. It goes after obscure films just as much as it goes after big budget blockbuster movies, just as it goes after classics like The Wizard of Oz and Casablanca, and even Pinocchio. And they're all going to come into play here very, very soon. But so here, I mean, Charlie Sheen and his motley group of soldiers that are the last hope to get the rest of the soldiers that were captured during Desert Storm. I'm on Jenny Craig. Does Jenny Craig still exist? I think it does still exist. It might be. I'm sorry. I gotta double check if it still exists. Oh yeah, it's still around. Yep. Jenny Craig is an American weight loss, weight management, and nutrition company. It has more than 700 weight management centers in Australia, the United States, Canada, and New Zealand. The program combines individual weight management, counseling with a menu of frozen meals and other foods which are distributed through its centers and shipped directly to clients. Yeah, I mean, so it's joined into the food shipment business where, and there's a lot of places like these. I tried a couple of them myself, and I got to admit I liked it, and yet at the same time, I mean, I just stopped ordering for them for whatever reason. Cross dressers, like what the hell? I mean, of course, the joke, why would the boat have a ladies' room when they said that women aren't supposed to be on the boat anyway? But oh boy, what's a pretty man? Yep. Valeria Gallino was indeed still is a very beautiful woman. I mean, like I said, when I recently saw Morning Show with Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston, I really liked her character, and I hope she comes back in season 3. I really hope she does come back for season 3. But I want to talk a little bit more about Valeria Gallino because I haven't really had a chance yet here to expand on it. But she's an Italian actress and an Italian actress and director. She is best known to English language audiences for her roles in Rain Man, Big Top Pee-wee, and the 2 Hot Shots movies, particularly the olive in the belly button scene. Yes, the very famous olive in the belly button scene, which was done with no trick photography whatsoever. In addition to David D. Donatello, Silver Ribbon, Golden SEAC, and Italian Golden Globe Awards, she is one of 3 actresses to have twice won the Best Actress Award at the Venice Film Festival. So she's done a lot more than just the Hot Shots movies and everything. What other stuff has she done? I mean, most people know her from Rain Man and Hot Shots, but she was also in Immortal Beloved with Gary Oldman, Clean Slate with Dana Carvey. She was in Leaving Las Vegas, the Nicolas Cage movie where he won Best Actor. Side Streets, Julius Caesar. Yeah, I mean she's done a lot of stuff and she's still absolutely working. Yeah, the Morning Show has been the most recent thing that she's done. And she was there for the first 2 seasons. I really hope that she does come back for the 3rd. Yeah, but then again, I mean, I think we have. But the question mark on whether we're ever going to get a Hot Shots Part 3 is, I don't think so. And the reason why is, despite the fact that these movies made a fair chunk of change back in the day, I mean, the thing is, I mean, the amazing thing is that since the two Hot Shots movies, we have had two more Rambo movies and another Top Gun movie. So the original creators have pretty much reclaimed the spotlight, and now the Hot Shot movies are now like a thing of the past. I don't ever foreseen a Hot Shots topper movie ever coming out. I mean, if Charlie Sheen were to come back, I mean, I'm sure that he would. I mean, would he be willing to do a Lloyd Bridges type of performance for a third film? I don't think that Jim Abrams or Pat Proft would be interested in going back to this well. I mean, and I would admit that I think that this type of thing needs like some new, fresh writers, some new, fresh blood to give the jokes a contemporary connection. Because the problem is with these two films is that there's a lot of jokes that are just straight up dated. I mean, if you weren't around in circa 1991 to 1993, a lot of these jokes will just go over your head. And that's just, that's not because people are stupid. It's just because that people weren't around that time. Like, would they know the Bush said that read my lips, no new taxes? I mean, would people today even know who that is that's actually talking? Would they know who the basketball players are? This is one of my favorite jokes. I mean, I smell a rat. They put a rat behind Charlie Sheen's shoulder there. But yeah, there is definitely a rat among this platoon, and it's pretty clear that it's Miguel Ferrer, who's pretty much like the what's his name? He's the mad about you guy of this group, like in Aliens. Paul Reiser's character. He's pretty much the Paul Reiser of this movie. Oh, and she found a mole. She found the mole that Brenda Bach had given Charlie Sheen earlier. So, yep. So now that relationship has gotten a little bit more sticky. There's a guard at the gate. Here again in the theaters, I mean, this movie got consistent laughter. I mean, the audience seemed to be into it for pretty much the entire movie, and there was rarely any quiet spots. There was rarely any moments where there was hardly any laughter, or that some jokes didn't work as well as others, because everybody seemed to be into it. And like I said, I mean, the beauty about these type of comedies is that if one joke doesn't work, well, there's one right around the corner up somebody else's sleeve to make up for that joke, and hopefully you'll stay on board. But this was a crowd pleaser when I saw it in the theater. This was a genuine crowd pleaser. I mean, everybody loved the humor. Everybody loved the performances by Charlie Sheen and Valeria Gallino and Lloyd Bridges. And I wouldn't say this movie is cruder than the first movie, because a lot of people complain about Naked Gun 33 and a third, and how they really up the ante on all the sex jokes and the masturbation jokes, and it really went a long way with a lot of those with a lot of the sexual humor. In this sequel, I mean, sure, we have a fart, we have the Basic Instinct spoof, but then again, we also have the 9.5 weeks spoof. I mean, these are PG-13 movies that is able to get away with as much as possible while still keeping the kids able to come in. Because look, I mean, a lot of kids saw these films when they came out in 1991 and 1993. And like I said, I mean, seeing this film in the theaters with my parents and with a group of friends was just a very satisfying, very memorable theatrical experience that I will never forget, ever. But like I said, the primary target of Part Deux was Rambo First Blood Part 2 and Rambo 3. I don't know why. I mean, I just talked about the music and the shifting in composers and everything. I almost wonder why they didn't commission original music for the soundtracks for these movies. I mean, I could see them selling. Well, I bought the soundtracks, but only because I mean these. I mean, I was a connoisseur of motion picture soundtracks because that's how I heard the majority of the songs that I heard. And if I like the soundtrack, if I like more than a few songs, normally I would pick up the soundtrack and it would offer a variety of tunes. Maybe something like American Pie would have all contemporary rock music, but something else like the Wayne's World soundtracks would have a little bit more variety with what the tunes they chose. I mean, particularly when they went back to like classics from the 70s and the 60s even. I mean, but soundtracks is when I discovered a lot of my love for music in film. So I guess I have a lot to owe the music supervisors who are the ones responsible for the compiling the songs in motion picture soundtracks. The bananas. Yeah. Part 2 does get a little silly. It gets a little silly after a while, but there's still more than enough jokes that land. There's still more than enough jokes that I think hit their targets. Like, I mean, did you see this coming with the banana peel? Okay, now we're coming up here on what was in fact the poster for this movie, for Hot Shots Part 2. It was in fact Charlie Sheen picking up a chicken and shooting it as an arrow against this guy. And the tagline for the movie was basically just do it, where do would be where it would be, of course, be the French version of two. Just to do a timestamp real quick, we are approximately 60 minutes in to Hot Shots Part 2. Approximately 60 minutes in, 1 hour mark, and we have approximately 28 minutes to go. Yeah, this movie is actually slightly longer than Part 2. It's only about 4 minutes longer. And here we have another helium joke. I remember the helium joke from the beginning of the first movie, and they just couldn't let that helium go. But you know what? Give them credit. There's more helium jokes in this movie than fart jokes. Hey, how you doing tonight? Yeah, CO2 Dave 1. I'm glad you could come out tonight. I'm watching Hot Shots Part 2. If you want to jump in, we are at the hour mark. So there's a timestamp for you if you want to jump into Hot Shots Part 2. We're getting into the war and the battle sequences of this movie as it goes even further in making fun of Rambo. Which, like I said before, I have the entire Rambo collection. I like that franchise for what it is. I just don't like the direction that Stallone took the character with the second and third film, and I think that's what Hot Shots Part 2 beautifully addresses as it mocks those films with affection. Because, like I said, Richard Krenna, who played Colonel Troutman in the Rambo movies, he was having so much fun during this role, and that's part of the reason why Stallone was willing to watch it. And reportedly, he really enjoyed it and found this movie a lot of fun. And yes, he did laugh. But I'm just so glad that Richard Crenna was so probably so glad to have some fun with this character, and because I think he knew that the character had become a kind of a joke by the third film. Because, I mean, in the first movie, in First Blood, I think he's actually brilliant. And the weird thing is that he is so close to being hammy, and yet he doesn't quite get there. It's a fine line, but I do 100% believe Richard Krenna's character in First Blood, that this man can hunt you down and kill you. I believed everything he said. I mean, just the way he was able to do it. I mean, I believed him as an army colonel. Now, of course, in the second film, despite the fact that somebody is subordinate to him, he can't give orders to them to stand down. I mean, that's the thing, is that they got the ranks all wrong with the second movie. And then in the third movie, by that time he's playing the character again, and this time he's just kidnapped by the I forget who the villain was, but yeah, I mean, he was actually kidnapped in Rambo 3. Well, I'm just so glad that he was able to have a sense of humor about playing that character in that franchise. And so it must have been a coup. It must have been a coup to actually get him to agree to do this. But man, does it so make this a quintessential Rambo spoof. I mean, like I said, in the first film, the only quasi connection we had was Valeria Gallino co-starring with Tom Cruise in the first Hot Shots movies. Okay, now, yeah, I love this gag where, everything is like a theme park and we got to look at the map and everything as if you're in Disneyland. I felt Lloyd Bridges was the biggest surprise on how funny he was he delivered the lines. Yeah, I mean, he was just as great as Leslie Nielsen as far as I'm concerned. And the funny thing is that originally the Lloyd Bridges role in the Hot Shots movie is Tug Benson. They originally went to Leslie Nielsen. And reportedly, Leslie Nielsen told the director, Jim Abrams, is that, you know what, I'm pretty much done with these spoof movies. But then he turned around and did Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear, and Naked Gun 33 1/3, The Final Insult. And then ultimately he also did Spy Hard, and then he did another low budget spoof movie called Wrongfully Accused, which was co-written by Pat Proft, who also wrote Hot Shots Part 2. So I guess the money told him otherwise, basically. But, I'm glad that Lloyd Bridges was able to have a couple more of these spoof roles outside of the original Airplane, because if you also remember, Jim Abrams also directed Jane Austen's Mafia, and in that movie, Lloyd Bridges actually played a Godfather-like character. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ugh. That a boy. And here again, I can still watch Charlie Sheen in these movies. I mean, look, as I said before, I said this during my Hot Shots commentary, and I'm going to repeat it one more time here. Look, I think that despite all the personal problems in his life, I am not ready to ban him entirely. I do not believe for a moment that what Corey Feldman said that he did on the movie Lucas. I said that before. And like I said, yes, I'm a fan of Lucas to the point where Kerry Green actually signed my DVD copy. And I will do a commentary on this eventually. But look, I do not believe Corey Feldman. And thus, I do not believe that Charlie Sheen did what he was being accused of by Corey Feldman to Corey Haim. Like I said, best to wait until I do a commentary for Lucas, and I will do a deep dive on that because I think it's very important. I think he should be exonerated of that accusation entirely, and thus here again, regardless. I mean, 2.5 Men. He turned into an asshole. He became, like this joke in the media. I didn't read about the entire story. But the point is, I think he does have a lot of regrets now. And I honestly think that if given the chance, and of course the choice, I think that he would love to reprise his role as Topper Harley for a third Hot Shots movie if he was given a script. And like I said, I would insist that he play the Lloyd Bridges role. But I don't know. I mean, could he have burned all his bridges to the point where he's now not hireable? I don't know. I honestly have no idea. The crazy thing is that David Zucker has written a script for a Naked Gun 444 and a fourth. And I'm wondering if Jim Abrams and Pat Proft ever wondered about trying to go ahead with a Hot Shots, a third film that would make fun of Maverick. But here again, I know Maverick, it just came out. We're still waiting on the final assessment from audiences, but it seems pretty unanimous right now. And here again, I question that. I find that a little weird and a little strange. I almost refuse to believe it. And when I check out the film, I will make my own judgment on it. But for right now, as I said before, I am not a fan of the first Top Gun for reasons I've already stated in my Officer and a Gentleman commentary. And, like I said, I will check out Maverick when I get the chance to check out Maverick. But, and Leslie and, Lloyd Bridges just had to fart, and it came to the surface to knock out all the guys standing on the boat. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. So like I said, despite the fact the Hot Shots movies, despite the fact that they are very, very dated with some of the humor, I mean, look, this movie I think is best loved and best appreciated by those who were around in the early 1990s. I am not saying that audiences cannot find it funny now, but I worry that they're not going to get a lot of the jokes. Maybe not most of them, but more than in 1991, 92, 93. And of course, Miguel Ferrer, War. It's fantastic. Yeah, if you work for the military industrial complex, oh yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Make all that money. It's just I just find it sick that all these defense contractors get all this money, and yet we have no money left for social spending. It has to go all to the 1% and military contractors. It's really a shame. I highly doubt they drew upon actual blueprints of Saddam Hussein's castle or fortress or whatever the fuck he was in when he was alive at this time. But hey, it works for this movie in terms of the parody aspects. We get it. He's in a place where he's, he has a lot of protection. Oh, that's right. I read this was filmed in the exact same place where Scarface was filmed. You remember the stairs going all the way up there, that this was filmed at the exact same set. I'm pretty sure I read that in the trivia because now it does look like exactly that set. That is the Scarface set. That is without a doubt the Scarface set. Oh, that is amazing. But then again, it also poses the question, well, if that is really the Scarface set, why didn't they try to incorporate a couple of Scarface jokes? I mean, it was a big enough movie by 1993. You think they would have tried that by now. But then again, of course, after Hot Shots Part 2, we had Jane Austen's Mafia, which I already mentioned. There is a Blu-ray that was released by Kino that I still want to pick up, which actually has a Jim Abrams audio commentary on it. The DVDs for Hot Shots do not have any bonus features whatsoever, but there is a Kino Lorber Blu-ray release of Jane Austen's Mafia where Jim Abrams actually does talk on a commentary. I should get that and do my own commentary for Mafia, because I actually find that movie a little bit underrated. It's been too long since a comedy like Naked Gun or Airplane has come out that audiences may not gravitate to them anymore. Yeah, that's very, very true. Instead, we've had to deal with the Friedberg and Seltzer idiots who have been making these ridiculous reference movies, which are really not movies. I mean, everything I've heard and read, they're really not movies at all. They think they're movies, but they're not. I mean, I heard nothing but atrocious things about those movies. Nothing but atrocious things. But anyway, we are approximately 1 hour and 13 minutes into Hot Shots Part Deux, and we got just less than 16 minutes left to go. And thank goodness, because my butt's starting to get really numb. It's gonna go to sleep right after this. And so finally we have Star Wars. They finally decided to go towards the lightsaber Star Wars references here. And soon we're going to have Wizard of Oz and Casablanca, of all things. I mean, they really doubled down on all the movie spoofs from this one, from the first Hot Shots. Your powers are weak, old man. You shouldn't have come. And you know what? We haven't even got to Rowan Atkinson yet. I mean, Mr. Bean is coming up right here. Right here. Here we have Mr. Bean. Before that, we have to have a Pinocchio joke, though, where, this guy goes underwater and he says in his bubbles, "Oh, Mr. Geppetto." Like I said, they went all out. They went all out with all the movie references for this movie. Oh, shit. There's Rowan Atkinson. Now, believe it or not, but Rowan Atkinson actually made his film debut in the James Bond, the unofficial James Bond film, Never Say Never Again, where he played the Q character. And this was before the Bean movie, but he had already played Bean on television. On British television anyway. I don't know if he had arrived on PBS stations at this point, because he had become a cult hit in America too, because of the Mr. Bean show and Blackadder being shown on PBS stations. So it's very interesting in hindsight to see him in this movie, because I don't remember if I had seen Mr. Bean by the time I had seen Part Deux. Yes, CO2, Dave, I am absolutely serious. Never Say Never Again was Rowan Atkinson's first movie. And this was, Part Deux, of course, came out 10 years after Never Say Never Again. And speaking of a drink of water, I definitely do need one. I mean, even though we have about 15 or 13 minutes left here, I need some water, man. Shit. Oh dear. Is this filtered? Yeah. Rowan Atkinson played the Q-like character in Never Say Never Again. And in this movie, Hot Shots Part Deux, he plays Valeria Gallino's husband. And that's why, when Charlie Sheen asked her, "Oh, you got to be joking." Look, if I was joking, I would have said, a horse walks into a bar and the bartender says, "Why the long face?" I'll fuck up your life if it's the last thing I do. There's the movie's F-bomb. And, of course, the little joke with the mole here. What would you do to make you so invictive? Oh, Ramada. Here again, in the theater, people were cracking up the wazoo. When when Richard Krenna comes into the scene and is like, "No, oh, go on," and you think they're going to talk about like a lesbian experience in college. Of course, the entire audience wants them to keep going. Keep going. Now, for those of you who remember the show American Gladiators, we're about to have a virtual reenactment of some of the exercises that took place. I mean, that was a weird show. I mean, I remember it played on Saturday mornings, and it was basically these people doing all these obstacle courses and everything. I mean, it's very hard to describe, and those are actual models that were on the show. Zap and I forget the other woman. They're in the credits though, so whatever. But yeah, they did all of this on a show called American Gladiators, which I didn't watch a lot of it. I watched a little bit of it. I mean, it was just I found it too weird. It was just something I couldn't get myself into for whatever reason. I mean, I'd rather watch Star Trek: The Next Generation than than American Gladiators. Something more intellectual to be up my speed. Yeah. Oh no! I gotta say, the guy playing Saddam Hussein really did an excellent job. He really does go all out playing this terrorist and in a very broad comic way. I mean, he really does go all out. Now, one thing that was very fresh in everybody's mind back then was, of course, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And so here we have, I mean, oh God, they spoofed Terminator 2 to death after it came out. And this is, of course, one of the more memorable ones where Saddam Hussein now becomes like the liquid metal, and we find out, to turn back into, you know, well, I mean, terrorist Terminator, I guess it's close enough, right? Yeah, this is all the liquid metal effects that they employed for Terminator 2. I wonder if they consulted with anybody on that movie to because these effects almost look exactly the same. You would think that they would be footage taken from Terminator 2 or even deleted footage. But yeah, you would buy it. You would buy it as being deleted footage from Terminator 2. Rowan Atkinson. Rowan Atkinson is funny in everything, man. Oh, so here's another Pinocchio joke right here. This means war. uh, and so we're getting into the last 8 minutes of Hot Shots Part Deux here, as she gets arrested along with Colonel Troutman. It's not Colonel Troutman, but uh, he was obviously making fun of Colonel Troutman and having a lot of fun in the process. So, of course, Ramada would be married to Rowan Atkinson. I mean, why not? Why not? Oh, my darling. I love Rowan Atkinson's little speech here. We have so much to look forward to. I want to do it all. Donahue, Geraldo, Sally Jesse. Oh, and who's that black chick? Oprah. Yes, yes, her too. I don't know. How the hell did they get Rowan Atkinson to be in this movie? I have no idea. But he certainly does fit in with the material. But he's in for no more than 2 damn minutes. He's literally in it for screen time. And here we have the Casablanca ending, which everybody is well aware of. I want to meet your parents and pet your dog. My parents are dead. My dog ate them. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is literally taken out of Casablanca. It's just, I mean, Casablanca was one of my father's favorite films, and I think he was really losing it about this time because not only would they do Casablanca, but then they would do The Wizard of Oz right after it. See, now that's how Casablanca should have ended, man. That's how Casablanca should have ended, with Ingrid Bergman saying that she would pleasure Humphrey Bogart anytime, any place for as long as he could possibly desire. That's how they should have ended Casablanca, baby. I'm telling you. Be a great visual for the talk shows. Like, what the hell, man? Rowan Atkinson, he does make this ending a lot funnier than the original ending, I think, of the first movie. He just adds that right amount for just his face. Just his face, man. And of course, he falls to his death. I would go with that ending. Yes, absolutely. He had some funny lines. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, move over. I got dibs on the window seat. So yeah, Saddam Hussein is long gone, thank goodness. I mean, yeah. Like I said, very much a product of their time. The Hot Shots movies are very much a product of their time, but still, I do think that there's enough laughs, whether, whatever movies you recognize and whatever you don't recognize. I do think there's enough laughs for people to still enjoy them as silly spoof comedies. Even if you don't get all the references and all the jokes. I mean, at least they're more creative, I think, with the references than, say, like the Family Guy. you know, and the helicopter being burned up by the sun and the trail there. It takes two, baby. It takes two, baby. Make your dream come true. Me and you. So yeah, that is Hot Shots Part 2. So just to let everybody know, for everybody that's still around and listening, next week I will be doing a commentary on two movies from the 1970s. I still have not decided on the date or the time for both of them. However, I will be doing Herbert Ross's The Goodbye Girl, which won Best Actor for, oh yeah, fun fact, actor Richard Krenna invented tartar sauce. See, that's the kind of humor that you'll find in the end credits for Hot Shots Part 2. But anyway, so next week I'll be doing The Goodbye Girl, starring Richard Dreyfuss, for which he won the Oscar for. Fun fact, baseball superstar Darryl Strawberry spends his winters thinking of new excuses. I mean, if you have sports history knowledge, you'll be able to get those jokes. But and then 2 days, next Saturday night, I'm thinking about doing a British film called A Day in the Life of Joe Egg. A Day in the Death of Joe Egg, which is a British film from 1972 that's based on an award-winning British play. And it's very obscure. It has a very interesting cast. And that's why I'm very much interested in doing a 50th anniversary audio commentary for it. But those will be the two movies that I do commentaries on next week. It will be The Goodbye Girl and A Day in the Death of Joe Egg. Yes, indeed. Answer to tonight's scrambled movie title, T2. Okay. You know what the sad thing is that I can see like others like myself being in like a retirement home in our 80s and 90s, and this comes on television. It's like, oh, I remember this. It's just like, and nobody else cares. Nobody else nowadays would care about the Hot Shots movies. But here again, I do still hold out hope that we will have a third Hot Shots movie. We will probably never have a third one, but I still do hold out hope that maybe Jim Abrams and Pat Proft and Charlie Sheen and Valeria Gallino, even, that they could come up with something. I mean, it would just be wonderful. We could have a new comic, a new young cast and everything. There's the Bob Vila credit from, This Old House and everything. I mean, if we have a Hot Shots Part 3, I think that you could do something that would make fun of both, maybe um, Top Gun and Rambo together as a whole, and then they can go off in other directions with what other movies they want to spoof. I mean, I still hope beyond hope we do get a third Hot Shots movie, but for now, they're only available on old 20th Century Fox DVDs, as well as I don't know how long the first Hot Shots movie will be made available for free on YouTube, but Part Deux, unfortunately, Disney is forcing people to rent or buy from now on. So if I were you, if you love these movies, I would buy them to stream them every once in a while if you do love them. Pop quiz. Who was the art director? What does Don Miljovic do? And what character said, "You yanking my crank"? I wonder if people actually took the time to answer those questions. And it's like, well, what do I do? Do I send these to 20th Century Fox or what? And yes, this movie was filmed in front of a live studio audience. Oh yeah, the credits in these movies are always funny. But anyway, CO2 Dave 1, thank you so much for coming into the chat section. I didn't have a large turnout tonight, but hopefully next week that'll be changed. So, but there's Hot Shots 1 and Hot Shots Part 2, and I will see you all next week for The Goodbye Girl, as well as A Day in the Death of Joe Egg. You all have a good night.